Well, it's probably not a stretch to say that the day that Harry met Meghan was probably one of the least fortunate days of his life. I mean, let's just be fair. He may not feel that way, but in the eyes of other royals and anyone who's been paying attention to this young man since probably even around his birth, that was a very unfortunate day indeed. Harry's had a lot of unfortunate days in his life. He was a good little kid. He was a lot of fun when you saw him being held in his mother's arms and playing with his brother and all of that. He lost his mom at the age of 12 years old and was ever in the spotlight from that moment forward, including at the procession for her funeral, walking at the back behind his mother's casket with his brother. Now, there wasn't ever going to be a shortage of spotlights or attention as a member of the royal family, but as second to his brother in lineage, it did allow him a bit more freedom that William would never be allowed to enjoy. Good for him. Of course, that freedom may have actually cost him more dearly than he's realized to date, and may have his position within his family on a permanently rocky surface indeed. Worse yet, of course, is that in a recent Netflix special that was set up for all types of disaster from the very beginning, Harry allowed his allegedly lying spouse to dig the hole in his life even deeper. Let's dive into this one. Here we go. Let's start first with the fear. For Harry and Meghan, it was rather visceral. A clear sense that what was happening would be a pronounced failure. Now, that is because they were feeling all of the effects of this Netflix limited docu-series that has been labeled by some as, well, pure fiction. That would include family members of Meghan herself, and of course, friends and family members in the royals. But we'll get to that shortly, of course, and let's first focus on the Express article that we have here from November 28th, which was headlined specifically that Meghan and Harry scramble to distance themselves from series amid fears of Netflix flop. Wow. So they were prepared for this. Probably since they were a part of it, they were aware of what was going on. And of course, they are citing here, and I will also, Neil Sean's YouTube commentary that I'll put in quotes. Harry and Meghan wanted to use the documentary to present themselves in a brand new light as, quote unquote, hardworking people. Wow, hard to do. Got $125 million in production deals on top of $12 million, that you have as part of your estates. You're not going to have a lot of people thinking that you have to be hardworking people. Maybe you can be. Maybe there are people like that are hardworking. I would point towards Elon Musk, but I think it's going to be a hard sell for most people, since both of these people have lived in the lap of luxury. Now, the series itself suffered through issues from the very beginning, throughout. There's just not enough content to fill it up. At least that was some commentary from inside, including the first director that was hired to deal with this. That first director left for many reasons, but primarily amongst them was that Harry and Meghan didn't want to be filmed in their home. A lot of the footage that was captured, at least in the first 3 episodes, was done by Harry and Meghan's own production company. They wanted the show to be completely scripted because they didn't want it to feel like reality TV. How much of a documentary or docu-series is that? If you're scripting it, seems like fiction to me. And there's more to some fiction that may be being crafted, but we'll get to that later on. Ultimately, they're finding themselves right now unhappy with it. They don't like it, and they hope that everyone will forget it as quickly as possible. And that's got to make Netflix just super happy, right? Especially after dumping $100 million in Harry and Meghan's laps for production of stuff. The ever-present spin machine is definitely up and running full speed, maybe even overtime for this particular thing. One of the outlets that you would expect to come out positively for this is, of course, Cosmo, who dropped their piece Sunday to try and gin up the yuppie wine slurpers out there into a Netflix watching frenzy, because they need that, because the show is, rough. Again, in Cosmo stating that Harry has no regrets in the first part of the first sentence, that was likely taken out of context. And of course, it has to be. They have to find ways to get this happy spin on this. Supposedly, the negative response to the series, at least in this Cosmo article, was expected. They anticipated it. And of course, begging the simple question that I would have asked Netflix from the very beginning, or the Sussexes, if you want to call Harry and Meghan such, why make it? Why did you bother to produce? Lots of sources are quoted or are attributed comments in this Cosmo article, which leads one to believe that no one in possession of any inside information was actually remotely involved with the Puff Piece article, at least about the show and probably about the entirety of this article. And what adds humor to what would otherwise be a very tragic situation, or actually is, I guess, tragic situation, is the quote left for the end of this Cosmo article, which is, "Harry retains hope for reconciliation. He loves his father and brother, no matter what people think." And if that's truly Harry's endgame here, then this series was not a step in the direction of mending fences. Nicest way that I could put it. In fact, reportedly, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have been warned not to attend the King's coronation, which is scheduled to take place next spring, in May actually. Politicians and authors and others have weighed in, stating that if you're willing to trash your family, you should stay away. Seems like sound logic to me. Also of note is the date of the second part of this series when it drops, which is December 15th. And that's the same date that Kate Middleton will tape her Royals Carols Christmas special for ITV. The greatest criticism of all for this is hypocrisy. A demand for privacy while spilling the tea. How more hypocritical can you get? No one is feeling badly for them, Meghan and Harry that is, based on the nest egg that they now have accumulated courtesy of their previous holdings, as I mentioned, and the huge Netflix and Spotify deals that they have. $125 million worth. I guarantee you, almost everybody that I know, including myself, would love to have an extra $125 million to produce some content. I think I could do quite a bit with $125 million. What do you think? But there's definitely been some chatter here. That chatter is that at least one of the guests over on the Spotify podcast that Meghan actually hosts, her interview series called Archetypes, that at least one of those interviewees never actually was interviewed by Meghan. In fact, in a social media post, the person being interviewed actually thanked the producer for being an excellent interviewer. So this brings the question, I think, how many of these interviews are actually being done by Meghan? And are they being done by her in the studio in real time? Or are we seeing a scripted questionnaire being delivered after the fact? Archetypes itself, this Spotify show, is actually 12 episodes deep right now. I think the last one was done at the end of November. As far as season 1 goes, I'm not sure if it ends there with episode 12 or if there's more to come. The docuseries over on Netflix puts to bed one of the obligations that they are obviously required to fulfill for this Netflix production deal. What's left of these production deals remains to be seen. I can't imagine any quality children's programming coming from these two anytime soon. I certainly wouldn't want any of the kids that I would have to take any lessons from these two individuals. I'm fairly concerned with what kind of garbage they would be tossing that direction. I can't imagine what else they can offer, honestly, as far as both of these production deals are concerned, outside of interviews with famous people who share ideology with them, which kind of seems to be what Archetypes is all about. Meghan's family has spent a fair bit of time over the course of the weekend news cycle calling Meghan a liar, amongst some other unflattering things. Once again, bringing up Meghan's refusal to visit her father during a major medical situation. Quite a bit of distress from what I'm to understand. And there seems to be a serious difference in viewpoint when it comes to Meghan's upbringing, well, her perspective versus the balance of her family's perspective. I'm not sure it's easier, I should say, I'm sure it's easier for most people to side with her family at this point, based on her ever-growing reputation isn't a positive. Now, returning to the mockuseries itself, and I'm going to call it that, mockuseries, because it's definitely not a documentary if it's scripted. It's turning out to be quite the failure, right? Just as they feared, both the media and with Netflix, and of course with the viewers as well. CNN, the New York Post, and many other outlets gave it very little fanfare and certainly refrained from suggesting people watch it at all. That's not a good sign. Nobody is suggesting that you see it. I would venture to say, that there's even some that say don't bother, don't waste your time. Perhaps Netflix will cut their losses. They've already written off the $100 million, I would imagine, although there's probably haven't delivered it all at this point, but who knows? Netflix does some dumb things with money. For now, the future for these two remains to be seen. Probably the nicest way to put it. I'm sure they'll be just fine financially. I mean, there's plenty of money there. But I think Harry will find a wellspring of regrets in the many years to come, at least when it comes to his family, how he comported himself. But hey, what do you think? Do you think that Netflix made a strategic error with this series and with this overall production deal? Do you think that Harry will have regrets over all of the things that he's done recently related to this unfortunate person in his life? And is there any chance that Meghan is being unfairly maligned? I mean, I'll allow for that. Maybe that's the case. I don't think so, but hey, that's what the comments section is for down below. So with all of my questions and any thoughts that you have, let's communicate in the comments section, and hopefully we can have a dialogue about what's going on with Harry and Meghan, and of course Netflix and Spotify and all of the royals. Quite a lot to talk about. With that, please support other independent creators out there. I'm obviously supporting one right now, Order Black Garrett, but we have a lot of other great channels out there that could, they could use your support as well. If you find somebody that you like, be sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell icon for notifications, of course. Share out their content. It really does help channels grow. Please share mine out. I would truly appreciate it. And of course, comments drives everything here on YouTube, at least algorithmically. That engagement is important, as well as hitting the like button on the videos that you enjoy. And if you liked this one, please let me know also in the comment section down below, because I don't often cover anything associated with the royals. I'm not really a giant Anglophile, although I know a little bit of stuff, but it's just not my forte. It's not something I usually cover here either. I'm focused on business entertainment, which this was loosely tied to because of Netflix and Spotify, so I guess it's okay. With that, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, bye. And don't forget to check out my Rumble at rumble.com/CultureCasino. And don't forget to check out my Rumble at rumble.com/CultureCasino.
Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.